What can go wrong when we are sampling from a population in order to learn about an S-demand? One of the problems that we could have is called selection bias. Selection bias occurs when the sample is not representative of the target population. The units in the sample are different from the units of the target population in some important way. How could this happen? Well, there's two reasons this could happen, and this picture here in the right corner helps us see how. One possible problem is that the sample is not representative of the sample population. Perhaps we didn't sample randomly. Perhaps in order to learn about voting patterns of people in Massachusetts, I approached people at a rally for a particular political event, and I end up with only Republicans, right, in my sample. So yes, the sample is a subset of the sample population, right, but perhaps it's not representative. So if the sample is not representative of the sample population, we have selection bias. And the other reason we could have selection bias is that the sample population might not be representative of the target population. So again, suppose I'm trying to learn about the voting patterns of people in Massachusetts, and the target population consists of all voters in the state of Massachusetts, and the way I decide to sample is by walking up and down the street and approaching people. Then the sample population consists of the people who were on the street that day, and the sample consists of the people who I decide to approach. So there we have both types of selection bias. The people who were on the street that day are probably not representative of all the people in the state of Massachusetts because I'm in a street in a certain location. So there's no reason that the people in that certain location would be representative of all Massachusetts voters. So there the sample population is not representative of the target population. But also, if the sample population is all the people walking down the street that day and the sample consists of the people that I approach, the sample is also not representative even of the sample population. In other words, the people that I approach are probably not representative of the people who are walking by me. Perhaps I approach the people who aren't staring at their phones as they walk past, or I'm only approaching people who are by themselves, or people who look friendly, or I'm approaching people who are about my age and look friendly to me, people I might be friends with. That's going to get me a biased sample as well, because the people who are like me are probably not representative of the entire population. Selection bias occurs when the sample is not representative of the target population because either the sample is not representative of the sample population or the sample population is not representative of the target population. Another type of bias is non-response bias, and that occurs when the respondents are not representative of the target population. And so in this example of approaching people on the street, the target population is everyone who's a registered voter in the state of Massachusetts. The sample population is people who are walking up and down this particular street today. The sample consists of the people that I approach, and the respondents are the people who actually give me information when I approach them. Well, if the respondents are not representative of the sample or the sample population, I'm going to have non-response bias. When I approach people, some of them are going to turn me down. If the people who turn me down do so in a way that relates to who they are, I'm going to have non-response bias. Perhaps of the people I approach, only the people of the opposite gender are willing to talk to me. That could happen, right? That means that although I'm approaching people of both genders, I'm only getting information from men. So then the respondents would not be representative of the sample, and therefore would also not be representative of the sample population. If, among those selected for the sample, non-respondents differ from those who respond, we have non-response bias. So again, selection bias has to do with whether the people or the units you attempt to include are representative. Non-response bias has to do with whether the people or the units in your sample are even willing to participate in a way that's representative or not.